All right, so welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Justin L.A.C. Today I'm going to be making some homemade knife-cut noodles. And we'll also show you how to make a simple and easy soup to go along with it. Right, so we're going to start out by making the noodles. Here I got some bread flour and approximately scooping out about 2 cups. All right, so we got about 2 cups of bread flour and about half a teaspoon of salt. And we're gonna put it here into the mixer. And of course, if you don't have a mixer, you can definitely do this all by hand. I also enjoy doing it by hand. So now here we're gonna add in some water. So even with the water, the way I like to do it is I don't measure it. I just add a little, and then I just add a little bit more. Probably not the most exact way to do it, but I mean, this is just me cooking at home. I decided to make this spur of the moment, last minute, first thing in the morning. I wanted to make noodles. No, actually, we wanted to eat noodles. We didn't have any noodles, so I thought I'd make some. So I roughly started out with about 2 cups of water, half a teaspoon of salt, and then just slowly add in the water. Right, so you're gonna add it slowly so that you don't get too wet. But I tell you what, if it gets too wet, you put too much water, super simple. All you gotta do is add more flour. Right, so you put in the flour and you're gonna put it in your machine and really mix it. It's gonna mix for maybe about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, until your dough comes together and it's nice and stretchy. You don't want it to stick to the bowl. You don't want it to stick to your fingers, right? You wanna be able to easily take it in your hand without sticking to your hands, sticking to the bowl. So even after I've used the mixer, I like to put it on the table and then knead it a few times by hand. Right, so I generally have this rhythm. Do it twice, turn it a quarter turn, knead it twice, turn it a quarter turn, knead it twice. So these are not going to be like hand-pulled noodles, so we don't need to work the gluten out that much, but we just need to make sure we have a really nice dough, nice consistency, soft and pliable in the hand, right? And then we're going to roll it up into a ball, dust it with some flour, and then we're going to cover it and let it rest, right? And at this time, while my dough was resting, I started my soup. So the soup is super simple. We got some shiitake mushrooms. We have some bok choy and some spring onion. Later also I'll show you I have some dried seaweed that I bought from the Korean market. You can get from Chinese market, any Asian market. Pretty much you can find this kind of a dry seaweed. I'll show you in a minute. So of course, as always, make sure you wash all your vegetables, wash your mushrooms. And the bok choy, we break it up into individual leaves. So that way you can get inside there, wash out all the sand, all the dirt. Right, so you got everything nice and washed, rinsed off. Start by slicing some ginger. Put that aside. Right, I'm gonna take my bok choy. And like I told you, this is just breakfast. So we're just gonna rough chop this bok choy, set it aside. Right, and then take my shiitake mushrooms and I'm gonna slice them. You can use dried shiitake mushrooms if you soak them in water. I got these are fresh shiitake mushrooms we got from the Korean market. Right, just give them a quick slice, set them aside. And then I'm gonna chop my green onion. Right, so all of this is actually in real time. So after I made my dough is resting, and now I'm preparing my soup. Right, so here we go. I'm running out to got a pantry outside. I'm going to get my dried seaweed. right, so here we go. I mean, any dried seaweed will do. You know, you can also use a kombu, like a thicker seaweed. This is a thinner one. You can also use the Chinese we call zicai, or it's very, very fine, very thin seaweed. That also will work. All right, so every time when I start a soup, I put the oil in the pan, heat the oil, and I always start off with my ginger. Right, so that way you get a little, infuse the flavor of the ginger into the oil. And then next we're gonna use the mushrooms. So put the mushrooms in, we're gonna get them nice and toasted. So you get a really nice earthy flavor. So you gotta remember, when you're cooking, you gotta cook in layers, you gotta cook in steps, right? You gotta know what to put first. So we put our ginger first, infuse that ginger flavor into the oil. Second, we add in our mushrooms, get them to brown up, really get those fragrances out. I mean, this shiitake mushrooms have a fantastic fragrance, especially when you're sauteing them in some oil like this. Yeah, so we give it a quick toss in the pan, keep them moving around. You can see in the pan they're starting to brown up. Close up, you can see some nice golden color on the mushrooms. The ginger also, nice golden brown. So when you cook like this, you really go to saute, you go to toast it, you get the color on it. It's really gonna add a nice richness, a deeper flavor to your soup. Okay, so here, adding in some hot water. You can use vegetable broth. And you're going to season it. Don't forget to season. You're going to season with some salt. You can put a little vegetable bouillon in there if you like. Right, so now let it come to a boil. That's all I did. Bring the soup up to a boil. Here we go. Put in that dry seaweed. So what's nice about that dried seaweed is that it's super clean. It's not salted. So you can just take a handful of it and put it right in. So I added a little bit of soy sauce for seasoning. Don't forget to taste as you go. Taste it as you go. Adjust the seasoning if you need to. Put more salt, put more soy sauce, but always start out with just a little bit. Taste it, and you can add a little bit more. All right, so now last, at the very end of the soup, we're just gonna put in the chopped bok choy and our green onions. Now we're gonna head back over to our dough that we had made, and we're gonna roll out the dough, and we're gonna cut our noodles. Right, so I'm going to cut that larger ball into 4 pieces. I'm going to set 3 aside. Now, if you happen to have like a pasta roller, that you can use to roll out sheets of pasta, you definitely can use that. I actually do have one. I just chose not to use it. Using the rolling pin, so we're going to roll it out. So what you want to do, we're making noodles, so ideally, we want to roll this out so we get a long sheet of, I can call it pasta, a long sheet of the dough here. Now what we're looking for is a nice even thickness throughout the whole piece of the dough. Right, if it gets wrinkled up, just pull it back out. One thing that's nice with working with the dough, it's very forgiving. Right, if you get a hole, you just fold it over, cover it up. Right, if you get a fold in the dough, just roll it back out. Right, so we roll it out, we flip it, roll it out, flip it. So I'm trying to maintain, I don't need it to go too much wider than this, but now I just want to get it to go longer so that I have some nice long noodles. So how thick or how thin you want it, that's really up to you. If you want a thicker noodle, right, then you just keep that dough a lot thicker. If you want a thinner noodle, then just roll it out even thinner. It's totally up to you. So once I got about the length that I want, I'm gonna go across it horizontally here, right? Just to kind of even it out. Right, so now before I cut it, I'm gonna dust it very well with flour, and then I'm gonna fold it up. Make sure you dust it well with flour so that when you fold it and then you cut it, that the noodles don't stick together. If you don't put the flour in there and you fold up that dough, trust me, all your noodles are gonna stick together and you're gonna be very disappointed. So, especially if you notice that your dough seems to be a little bit more on the wet side, definitely add more flour. Because you can shake it off and then it's gonna fall off when you cook it in the boiling water anyway. See, so there you have it. Fantastic handmade knife cut noodles. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and roll out the rest of the dough, and I'm gonna cut all the noodles. And once I got them cut, I'm gonna head over to the pot of boiling water, which I've already got prepared here. And I put a little bit of salt too. So make sure you salt your water, and it'll help give your noodles a little bit more flavor. Right, so we're gonna cook them, I don't know, they cook for maybe 3 minutes. Once they all start floating on the surface, you can taste one. You can tell if it's done, right? They float on the surface, it comes to a boil, cook for about 3-4 minutes. They should be done. Of course, depends on the thickness that you cut it. So right now I'm putting the noodles in the bowl. And then we're gonna serve it up. So we got noodles in the bowl, and then we're gonna ladle in our soup. The soup is nice and boiling and hot. And before your soup goes into your bowl with your noodles, make sure you taste it. Make sure it tastes good and tastes the way you want it to taste. If it doesn't, then that's the time to adjust the seasoning, right? If you made it too salty, then put a little bit more water. If it's not enough flavor, add a little more salt, add a little more soy sauce. You can add a little vegetable bouillon if you like. There you got it. This is our breakfast. I started this, I don't know, around 9 o'clock in the morning. I think it was ready by around 9:40. It took me about 40 minutes to prepare this. There you have it, some hand-cut noodles with a nice shiitake and seaweed soup. It's a really nice thing. You can give it a try. Winter's coming up. Soups are definitely in order. And this is super light, super refreshing, nice and warm and hearty with those shiitake mushrooms. And then here you go, you can finish it off with some white pepper. So super simple. That takes a little work to get the noodles, but really nice breakfast. And you'll be really proud of yourself, and you'll be glad that you did it. So if you've liked this video, please hit the subscribe button and be sure to tune in for more videos. And thanks for tuning in, and that's Cooking with Justin, L.A.C. See you next time.